You look so good.
She does. Welcome to the Ruston Small Business Month podcast, coming to you from the Origin Podcast Suite. This month, we are celebrating the heart of our community, our incredible small businesses. So let's dive in. Welcome, Miss Patricia, the owner of the Children's Shop and Peach Lemonade. We're glad that you came with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So Miss Patricia, you are such a staple in Ruston, such a staple in our community. But I know this story, but can you give us the story of what inspired you to start a children's clothing business?
I started making hair bows in 1987. I took a class from Marlon Waters at Trinity, and she taught us how to make hair bows. And so from then, I started going to the Peach Festival and different little festivals around. And then in the early 90s, Bonnie and Clyde opened. And I went to Bonnie and Clyde and sewed hair bows. And I was in called craft malls. I was in Bayou Crafters in West Monroe, and I was in Coomers, and I was in Chicago, Plano, and Houston.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
So I sewed bows there. And then it said you were in a craft mall that was considered a storefront. So you could go to Dallas Market. And since at this time in my life, I was a school teacher in Washington Parish, I bought T-shirts, and then other kind of T-shirts, and so those at the craft shows. And then in February of 2000, this building open for rent. It was $125 a month, and he paid the utilities, and I said, I'll take it. Didn't have anything but my hair bows. So I went to market and bought clothes, and we opened that little shop. Then we moved downtown to 204 West Mississippi in August of 2000. And in 2004, July the 28th, we opened up in our location we are now.
July the 28th. She remembers exactly. Okay, what was the little store where Board and Bottle is? It was like a children's store, and I was growing up, and your bows were in there. Am I remembering that right?
That was the
No,
store.
it wasn't where that wasn't where that was. It's where the corner down there.
Yeah.
That Board and Bottle is where it was Kids Corner.
Kids Corner. Yes.
I sewed her hair bows.
Yes. Okay, and you had your bows in there, and I always wanted to go in and get your bows. And that was, 1990.
In the 90s.
Yeah.
Wow.
So how do you balance the creative part and the financial part and the operational side?
I have great employees. I've had one manager for 14 years and one for 17 years.
Wow.
And so I go to market and I buy everything and I pay for everything. However, but we've been in business 25 years last week. The 21st of March, it was 25 years we've been in business. And so about 15 years ago, I hired a CPA, and we do direct deposit for payroll. They do that, and they post my checks and all my expenses, so I don't have to do the bookkeeping part anymore.
Oh, that's good, because you did it for a long time.
For 10 years. Taught school, did that.
When did you retire from teaching?
I retired in 06 from Washington Parish.
Oh, gosh, I didn't realize you were still teaching while you were doing all this.
For the first 6 years.
Were you tired?
I was tired.
I guess your kids were out of school, though, so you weren't running kids around.
But I had Scott who played baseball in Mississippi.
That's right, yep.
So I had a home game was 3 hours away.
Well, you've always had the energy. Okay, so how has the community supported? So hold on, how has the community support played a role in your success? And then we'll get to how you've given back.
Okay, the customer, but if you don't have customers, you don't have a store. You don't make money. So you have to have the customers to support you. But the best way is word of mouth. Because when you first start out, people, if they don't know you exist, they do not know to look at Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or what other TikTok or whatever other form of social media they look
You
at.
started before any of that was.
I know, but people didn't know that. I still have people who say, he's outgrown you. He wears a size 5. We go
to a size 14.
No, we don't.
16?
We go to men's extra large.
What? When did you start doing that?
This spring we added men's. That was a big thing last year at market. There was always been mommy and me. And now it's daddy and me.
Okay.
So you can buy the shirt for the boy and daddy. A lot of companies are doing daddy and me. So we go to a man's extra large.
Well, now we know.
We have shorts and shirts. I only have 3 brands because you don't need a lot of it.
Sure.
But we have and then we go into size 6X for girls. We have a few 7/8s. in the children's shop for that girl who's 5 and a little on the fluffy side,
Fluffy side.
and they need a little bigger, but they don't look like the size that you would wear from for 7 to 16 or 18. So when some sizes that look childish enough, they go up to an 8, we do. But
Okay.
at Peach Lemonade, we go to a lady size large. Okay, we go from a size 7 to a ladies large. And people say, why do you go to larges? I have this little girl, she was in there 2 weeks ago with her grandmother and mother and her 2 sisters. And her grandmother told me, she said, you bought these clothes for her. Because she's 10, she's my height, she wears a ladies medium. And I said,
Okay.
that's why I do it.
That is so
And so,
true.
and so it's not going to be the V-necks. It's not cutouts. It's not low in the back. It's not big armholes. It's something that's going to be a short sleeve dress. Because we have some short sleeve dresses from a company. The kids and the adults look alike. It's the same look, same fabric. One might have darts and one might have a waist, but it's going to be
the same look.
It's the same look. So that way they still look age appropriate, but they fit in with their peers. And I guess
It is such, I was so grateful that you had opened Peach Lemonade, but at the same time, my daughter had just gotten past that stage.
Uh-huh.
And it's hard.
Mhm.
Dressing girls that age is a huge challenge.
See, one of my challenges is I have a granddaughter who is 17, and at 14, she's the same height she is now, and that's 6'2".
I did not realize she was 6'2". Wow.
Alexander's 6'2", and you try finding a dress that's long enough on her that doesn't look like a tunic.
She's so pretty.
So that's another thing, for the girl, not everybody is the same size. Not everybody is a 2, 4, 6.
Mhm.
There's some who are tall, some are short, some are broad in one area and broad in another. And so it's just, I try to have something, I guess that's the teacher in me, trying to let everybody fit in and belong.
That's so awesome. And you do a really, really good job at that. So, if you were going to give somebody advice that wanted to start a small business in Ruston, what would be your wisdom?
First off, you need to see if what you want to do is needed. Okay, my inspiration was early ages. They had gone out of business in the 90s.
Was that in Ruston?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
It was up here. Inez Rainwater owned it.
Mhm.
Very sweet lady. Her son's Mike. Anyway, very sweet lady. They had great customer service, great product. Everything was wonderful. When you walked in, you felt like you belonged. They didn't treat you any differently because your social economic status or anything about you.
The same, yeah.
You just treat everybody the same. And I wanted to be like her. And so that's one thing. But know what you wanted. Next, can you afford to not draw a paycheck for 2 or 3 years? Do you have a job and you're going to quit your job to start a business? You don't make money at first. You put in a lot more money than you get out. That's when the government gives you 3 to 5 years when you open to make money.
Yeah.
You're not going to make money your first year. If you do, I need to know your secret.
Yes.
You just don't, and times change and things change. You might buy all of pink and purple. Well, next year, pink and purple doesn't curl it. They want purple and orange. So you have to diversify and you have to buy. One thing I've read in a magazine one time, you buy 50% of what you love, 25% of what you like, 25% what you hate. Because not everybody's going to have your...
Not everybody's going to like the same thing.
That's right. If everybody did, it'd be a boring world.
Yep.
So, you can have... So there's some things that I wouldn't put on a child, but some people love it.
Yeah. So true.
They like sequins and glitter on a 3-year-old, and tutus, on a baby. And I wouldn't, but that's me. But, I have it for the person who does.
Who does? Yeah. Why do you love what you do?
Okay. Can I say I'm 71 years old?
That's amazing.
I am 71, and my youngest grandchild's 15, so from 15 to 20. And like at work, I sometimes when I talk to my employees, they say, you sound like a teacher. And I said, well, that's what my training is. I've been a teacher for so long. And, but I want girls to succeed. I want my employees to succeed. I want them to have a work ethic. So when they leave me, they will know that if you're supposed to work from 10 to 5, that doesn't mean get there at 10:45 and you leave at 4:30 because, you have someplace to go. You have to learn responsibility. But also, I get to play with babies. I get to babysit your baby. I get to feed your baby. I do not change diapers on babies. But, I get to play with the babies, and then you get to send them home with mama.
Yeah.
And mama can shop, and
I mean, you have raised pretty much every child in Ruston, or been a part of the raising of
a lot of stuff
so
we have. And,
many
it's
kids.
been a very rewarding job and a journey that we've been on. I don't know how long it's going to last. No, like I said,
Why would you ever say that?
because
You're not going anywhere.
I'm 71.
Neither is the children's shop. Neither
have
is
no-
Peach Lemonade.
Peach is doing good. People still don't know that we exist. And people say, like I said, people come in the children's shop, they don't wear a size. They wear a size 5. We go men's extra large, like I said. So you just have to get people to learn and know that you're there. Because if you do have good service, they'll tell you their friends. If you have bad service, they'll tell you their friends.
Well, you've always had the best service,
That's
for
right.
sure. We shout it from the rooftops. All right, Miss Patricia, thank you so much for coming in and visiting with us and giving us some wisdom on owning a small business.
Well, thank you for asking me. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you soon.
Thank you.